Well, there was reason to watch the first two quarterbacks in for the Denver Broncos on Saturday night in Seattle. Teddy Bridgewater had 2 drives. Drew Lock relieved him and had 5 drives. They've got to pick a starting quarterback at some point. Here's Vic Fangio when he was asked after the game regarding when he plans to pick between Bridgewater and Lock.
No, it won't be tomorrow. The earliest it'd be early next week, or would let it go another week. Because these guys, both of them, Drew and Teddy, have done well, as you guys have seen, and they've made it a hard decision. So, we'll give it thorough thought. We've been discussing it with the coaches, with George all along, and we'll continue to do that.
I think whoever was working the camera there was a little overserved. The breakdown for the two quarterbacks, Drew Lock, 14 for 21, 231 yards, 11 yards per attempt, couple of touchdowns. Teddy Bridgewater, and again, just 2 drives for Teddy, 16 for 19, 179 yards, 9.4. That's the full preseason. I would say that's looking like a lot of throws for just 2 drives. The reality is, with Teddy, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. Right. And Bridgewater talked about, in his mind, that's all he cares about, getting his unit into the end zone. That's the objective. Bill Parcells, his mentor, tells him over and over again, just focus on getting your unit into the end zone, whatever you have to do. That's success in football. You lead the offense to 7 points, and he did it 2 out of 2 times. And, Chris, I'll tell you what, I'm starting to think Bridgewater's got a real shot at this. I thought it was going to be Lock because he has the higher ceiling. I'm starting to think Bridgewater has a real chance to win it.
Yeah, I mean, just from that answer alone that we saw Vic Fangio, I mean, obviously. First off, let me just ask you this. I mean, how much does the fact that George Patton came from Minnesota play into this too? And that might, he was there, I believe, right, when they drafted him to,
yes.
So there's got to be a little bit of some affection for Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater, if Vic Fangio wants to play the defense, I trust this guy not to turn the ball over type of things, yeah, he fits that mold, definitely, And Drew Lock, of course, is the more aggressive quarterback who I think can capitalize more on the talent they have at receiver and things like that. But, man, this is a tough one. There's no doubt. Teddy looked really good the other night. He threw the ball great. He moved well in the pocket. I mean, it was as good as I've seen him look, actually. Just how confident and how the ball popped out of his hands. Problem is, Drew Lock looked really good, too. I mean, the first game, he had some protection issues the other night, but still was really good. And here's the other thing I'll say that where it makes it confusing, too, to where if I'm Vic Fangio and you're worried about Drew Lock, he could be a gunslinger and all that. He never got impatient the other night. Even though things didn't go good, I thought that was a positive sign for Drew Lock, too. He didn't try to force something to happen. Oh, Teddy scored 2 touchdowns. I got to score touchdowns and throw lasers and do all of that. He just kind of let the game come to him the right way. I think that's a positive. But, yeah, Fangio's got a tough decision for sure.
And with Bridgewater, look, George Payton's got no connection to Drew Lock. He was drafted by John Elway, right. Second rounder in 2019.
Yeah.
There isn't that desire there to try to justify and vindicate the draft decision you made.
Exactly.
Because he didn't make it.
Right.
And Payton will have had his own evaluation of Drew Lock coming out of the draft. Maybe Payton wasn't a Drew Lock guy.
Exactly.
Maybe he and Rick Spielman, you scout quarterbacks even when you have one. What do you think of this Drew Lock? I don't really like him. He's got this issue. He's got that issue. And then you take a look at what he can do, based upon, I don't know if they played the Texans or the Broncos. I think, did they play the Broncos last season?
I think they did.
I can't remember.
They did, but I think Lock was hurt.
Yeah, you have an understanding of what you've seen on his film, and this is something Payton's going to look at when he gets the job at the very latest. But Bridgewater's a guy, he was their assistant GM when Bridgewater was drafted in 2014. He was part of the team when Bridgewater had the horrible injury in 2016 as they were getting ready for what they thought was an ascension of Teddy Bridgewater to potential franchise quarterback heights. And that didn't seem justified based upon his performance to date, but they believed he was ready to explode as a quarterback. I was in that new stadium that they were getting ready to open just a month or so before the Bridgewater injury, and you could just tell by walking around. Bridgewater's the guy, face of the franchise. They loved him.
Right.
They loved his talent, and Payton was part of that. And so when you hear guys like Fangio rave about Bridgewater's ability to buy time in the pocket. This is a great quote from Fangio. There's two types of elusive quarterbacks, the ones that run around, and there's the other ones that manipulate the pocket to buy time. The best in the last 20 years has been Tom Brady, and Teddy's got a little of that in him as far as manipulating the pocket.
Sure.
And one of the throws that Bridgewater made the other night, very subtle movement up in the pocket as the walls started to close in on the outside. He moved up calmly, made the throw, kept the chains moving, and that's what you need to do. If you're not going to be a guy that buys time laterally or takes off running, you got to be able to move around in the pocket, and he does it well. And I'm just starting to get this vibe that he's got a very good chance to win the job. The X factor in all this is John Elway, who's still kind of hanging around, still kind of has a spoon in the stew. How much influence will he have over the final decision? He's going to want Lock because that's his guy. The other guys may want Teddy Bridgewater, and that's where it gets interesting.
Well, I think Denver, they're one of the handful of teams that didn't make the playoffs last year that I go, watch out for this year. I like the look of the football team. I think they can win games with either quarterback, certainly. I think at their very best, you know my opinion, I do think Drew Lock can take advantage more of their weapons and things like that. They've both have played really good in the preseason. There's no doubt about that. So it's going to be about what the practice, how that's been. And where I'm confused is just a little bit because, like last week, we had that great performance by Lock, and Fangio came out, the day after or the next day saying, we're really close. I'm really close to a decision. And after Lock has a performance like that, you think, oh, well, they're favoring Lock after what they saw there. I mean, that was pretty damn good and pretty special. But, of course, Teddy made some unbelievable throws and plays too. And I don't know if he put a wrench in these plans or maybe they're reevaluating or Lock maybe didn't have a good week of practice last week. I don't know. But either way, it's going to be a tough one because it's hard to tell who's better on film. And like I said, I think there's enough support and a good team there that they could surprise some people this year in Denver.
We can win with either guy.
Right.
That is what Fangio said. And yes, Drew Lock still has the higher ceiling, but the floor for Teddy Bridgewater is much higher than Lock, and maybe the ceiling isn't all that much lower after all, especially given the leadership qualities he has, his attitude. Go watch his press conference at denverbroncos.com where he talks about, how he finds just kind of calm and serenity on a football field and why he always has an even keel toward everything. And look at everything he's been through. How can you not root for Teddy Bridgewater? Sorry, Drew Lock, but how can you not root for Teddy Bridgewater?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.